Africa belongs to the table in every room where global challenges are being discussed, and in every institution where discussions are taking place. That's why I announced in September at the United Nations General Assembly that the United States fully supports reforming the UN Security Council to include permanent representation for Africa. And today I'm also calling for the African Union to join the G20 as a permanent member of the G20. Working in close cooperation with the United States Congress, we plan to commit $55 billion in Africa to advance the priorities we share and to support the Agenda 2063. That number represents a comprehensive commitment from the United States to invest in Africa's people, Africa's infrastructure, Africa's agriculture, Africa's health system, Africa's security, and more. And I'm asking the Congress for the authority to lend $21 billion to the International Monetary Fund to provide access to necessary financing for low and middle income countries that are so difficult to come by now, and will help Africa's recovery efforts and support projects that build resilience against future crises. We're facing a global food crisis, and nowhere is it felt more keenly than on the African continent. Last year, nearly 120 million people in Africa faced acute food insecurity. And only halfway through the 2022, the drought struck and the food costs soared, in part due to Russia's unprovoked war against Ukraine, and the number increased to 140 million people facing acute food insecurity in Africa. Today, famine once more stalks the Horn of Africa. High food prices and high trade barriers are taking a toll on the lives and livelihoods of millions of people across the continent. And conflict, climate change, COVID-19 continue to compound the impacts of the global food crisis for all countries around this table. And the challenges we face are both clear and they are urgent. That's why this year alone, the United States has committed nearly $11 billion in humanitarian and food security assistance to deal with food insecurity, including a dramatic surge on the Horn of Africa. And this afternoon, I'm announcing an additional $2 billion in humanitarian assistance to address acute food insecurity in Africa. Assistance is going to help ensure that children and families don't have to go to bed hungry. My administration will work with the United States Congress to invest $75 million to strengthen transparent, accountable governance facilities, facilitate voter registration, support constitutional reform, and more. We'll also work to support and strengthen the security benefits that flow from good governance, including with the new 21st Century Partnership for African Security. Through this three-year, $100 million pilot program, the Department of Defense will work with our African partners to boost reforms that build their security capacity.